Welcome back to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. Hey, I have another really fun little bonus for you with the Ruy Lopez. Let me show you this real quick, and then I'll show you the main game. This is a fun little issue that comes up with the Ruy Lopez every now and then if you play silly like Black does. Granted, a lot of people probably wouldn't do this, but in case some people do, you want to know the main outline of the Ruy Lopez, and if you see someone deviate from that outline, then perhaps you can catch them in a trap, right? I mean, that's the idea. Traps and zaps and all that stuff like Bruce Pandolfini's book talked about. He wrote a popular book on that years ago. I went through it a little bit. It was fun. Some of them were sort of iffy, kind of like these, but you never know. Keep your eyes peeled for when they deviate from standard Ruy Lopez stuff, and you might be able to catch someone off guard. Knight will take the central pawn here, and the knight will take the knight. See, that's the pawn that Black wants to secure in the Ruy Lopez. White immediately takes it. So we have something setting up here very interestingly. Pawn, queen, 4. What a pawn fork, huh? Yeah! Yeah, bishop, knight, 5. Pawn takes the knight. So the knight sacrifice, he got his knight back, not bad. And now knight will take the pawn here. And queen goes to queen 4. What another beautiful tactic. Queen hitting the bishop and the knight, right? So the knight takes the knight. Going to do a few tactics of his own. The pawn takes the knight. So that's an exchange. And now bishop goes to here. That's the faulty move. This bishop goes to here. Bishop's on the edge. Swath up toward the king. Queen coming this way. Let's see what happens. Pawn to queen, knight, 3. Pawn to king, 6. Pushing the center pawn all the way. Queen comes to bishop, 3. Ooh, getting a bead possibly. Bishop takes pawn, check. Nice. What a bishop hit, yeah? King goes to queen, 1. Bishop, bishop, 6. Check. Really a nice move. Queen takes the queen from the discovered check. And pawn to king, 7, checkmate. That's a fun little thing. It's unlikely anybody's ever going to do that with Black, but what the heck. I get this out of Winning Chess Traps by Irving Chernev. Fun little book. It actually kind of helps you develop a feel for the various openings. So anyway, hang on for a quick sec, and I'll get to the main game. All right, this Ruy Lopez was played in the Europa Cup 1957 between Schmid and Ivkov. Ivkov is the black, Schmid is the white pieces. Let's see how these guys handled the Ruy Lopez. Typical standard opening so far. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, of course a6, yes, hit that bishop. And the bishop will bump back and pull out the other knight. Knight f6, absolutely, and go ahead and castle. You've developed in the Ruy Lopez as white, pushing your bishop and your pawn on the king side so that you can immediately castle and stick this rook on the file. That's standard for white. This response with Black is pretty much the way most people will do this as well. And then the threat after he puts the rook there, the threat is he is going to take that knight after all. So eliminate that problem, because that knight is hitting some good central squares. So keep that knight, push the pawn, bump the bishop back. That's why that pawn push. In the process of pushing those pawns like that, you've got a queenside greater space, and that's usually why black will play on the queen side instead of the king side, more or less. And that d6 pawn push is vital for black to do, supporting that pawn. That pawn you want to try to keep if you're playing to black. c3, yes, because white does want to remain with his light squared bishop. Black will castle. Castling usually occurs fairly early with both sides. That bump we've seen before, this is a typical maneuver, knight a5, because black is going to come onto the queen side and see how much he can get done on the queen side, and it is this c5 push. We've seen this before. This is standard. Gives him more space, puts his pawns further, closer to being able to carry out an attack. His bishops can get in here quick. His queen can get in here quick. His knight is technically already here on the queen side. So that's why black will go to the queen side if he can at all help it. And the proper response of wing play. Now see the center, it's not locked, but it's not open. So there's not going to be a lot of attack and slash and hack through the center. So it's okay to fight on a wing. In fact, that's the strategy. The response of when an opponent goes on the wing is to respond in the center. And we see this a lot with the Ruy Lopez, the d4 push with the pawn, yeah? And then queen c7. It's not necessary as black to relieve the tension in the center immediately. Some do, some don't. The advice is to continue developing your pieces because you need, development is a temporary imbalance. You really do, once you've got developed and all, you need to attack because the Ruy Lopez sets white up such that he will attack the king side of your side. So if you can get something going faster on the queen side, it's all the better. It eliminates a white attack on the king side. We saw that this last game in the previous video. A very excellent illustration of that. So this is what we're seeing come along, and so black is continuing to develop because he really wants to boogie on the queen side. And now white has to hurry. White has to get with it. Yeah? And look, bishop d7. He's bringing out his pieces, absolutely. And we see this knight maneuver, this typical knight maneuver in the Alekan game versus Ellis Casas. He put it here. Some people will put the knight here. We'll see what white does here. But either way, because the center is not open, it's not locked, but it's not open, the multiple moves of that knight maneuver are fine. You're still developing. You're getting your pieces together where you need them to be most effective. This is the principle behind that. And then black will respond. Rook putting it on the file, yeah, because there's tension here. This file will not remain closed or clogged, as it were. It will open up. The central files in the Ruy Lopez open up, usually, more or less. Bishop to g5. Blam, here we go. So white, you can see, white is getting on with developing because development is a temporary imbalance. If you're ahead in development, if you don't pursue that, your opponent will catch up to you. That's not necessarily a crisis, but it does happen. We're seeing this happen with white. He's getting going pretty good, and black kicks him. He says, make up your mind, what are you going to do? And in this particular case, the bishop wanted to remain on this h4 d8 diagonal, pressuring the guardian, one of the guardians of the castled king. So he's invoked a small weakness on that king side. So we'll see what happens here. That's kind of cool to see what's happening. And knight c4. Again, this multiple knight maneuver gets the knight to the c4 square. In Bobby Fischer's games, when he played the Ruy Lopez, the way he played it, his knight would end up often on c4 instead of the black knight. So there's various ways to play it, but the c4 square is a very important square in the Ruy Lopez for either side. Let's see what happens. It's not a permanent post, of course not. No, but white in this instance immediately kicks the knight and says, make up your mind. So he comes to a3. Target. They're both hitting targets. You can see they've remained tense in the center. Black is finding targets. White is maintaining his eye on exchanges of defenders of the black king. So we can feel, we can see the tension is building. Nothing's been relieved yet. So this will be real interesting to see how he does this. He puts the bishop to d3. Right. I mean, it just screams at you what black's going to do next. He's thinking targets, and that gives it away. I mean, you begged him to complete the pawn chain, yeah, and hit your bishop, which indeed strengthens his queen side somewhat at this point. If nothing else, it gets him a little more space, but if nothing else, it begins to open up lanes for a queen and rook and so on. So this is tense. It appears that black is closer to his queen side attacking objective than white is on the king side, doesn't it? That's kind of interesting. You want to just keep track of stuff like that. Now bishop e2. Now this provoking of the white pawn push, keeping the bishop on this side may be part of his strategy, huh? So yeah, he somewhat helped the queen side of black, but on the other hand, he's in a better position to be supportive of pawns running up and attacking too. So we'll see. So this is getting interesting, isn't it? Bishop e2, and then e takes d4. Okay, so black is as set up piecewise as he could probably be in order to start his queenside attack. So it makes sense that he's the one that he decides to pull the trigger and say, okay, let's get going here. Makes sense, doesn't it? And the knight, rather than the pawn, rather than the pawn exchanging and given, he takes it with the knight. He takes it with the knight. It helps maintain a little bit more control because it opens up the bishop back to this. It helps, it appears to me, it helps maintain better control of the queen side to exchange with the knight rather than that pawn. At least that's what I'm seeing. Black does take the central e4 pawn, so things are opening up pretty quick. The rooks opposite each other, you notice? The queens are in place. This could get tight quick, huh? Knight takes e4. Let's see here. Where are we looking? Bishop does take the bishop. We're going to swap the dark squared bishops. This is a typical bishop exchange in the Ruy Lopez well, a lot of openings, of course, exchanging the dark squared bishops because he wants the dark squares around the king to be weaker. In this instance, though, it's the light square that's kind of weaker. Kind of interesting, isn't it? We'll see what happens with that exchange, won't we? Be kind of fun to see. Bishop comes to f3, target. Yeah, target pinning to the rook. That's not bad. That's not bad. What are you going to do, Bubba? Well, he says, I am going to nab me a doubled up rook on a file. Yeah, that's tough. He's going into attack mode here, not just defense mode, isn't he? It's interesting, though, that it's in the center file, and nothing yet has really broke on the queen side. There's nothing wrong. Strategically, I might eat my words later, but strategically it's not an error, I don't think, to be attacking in the center either, right? But it just appeared like he was putting a lot of emphasis on the queen side, and now he's bumping back over to the center, and that can't be wrong to attack in the center. We'll see how this works out, huh? And of course, the bishop will take the knight. Yeah. The bishop takes the knight. Oh, and the rook takes the bishop. So black is on the attack. Black is definitely on the attack. And of course, the rook has to exchange with the rook. Look who gets the aisle, or the file, I mean. Yeah, look at that. Black takes the open file. White still has an undeveloped piece over here. Interesting, interesting. The fight for the center, the fight with the rooks on the files, the fight with development. Quite a game, isn't it? White says, let's close the queen side. Now look, it might be a psychological moment, right? He lost the file. And that's a wonderful centralized rook, although it can be chased away or exchanged. But at this point, he lost the file. The control of the center appears to be hotly contested. Can you afford to be fighting in both areas, the center and the queen side, at the same time? Apparently, white thought not and locked it. Kind of makes sense. Somewhat. Well, black says, I have the option, however, of continuing fighting on the queen side and opening it up. And I'm going to take that option. So it appears to me at this point, because that wonderful knight blockading that pawn, yeah, he's been on the rim for a while, but he's been serving a purpose. Holding this pawn back has given him the control of how and when to attack on the queen side and open it up. So this will be interesting to see how this works. Oh, is that an E or a C? I think that's an E. Let me double check. Yes, knight E3. And bishop E6. And rook to C1. The rook does come out to C1 here. A takes B4. He's going to go ahead and keep on going with the queen side. C takes B4, leaving him a passed pawn here on the C file. Not dangerous yet as such, but the potential is certainly there. Acquiring a target with the queen. See, now he is all queen side. The center again, it's contested. It's not locked. It's actually more pieces than pawns, so it's hotly contested. And if it's hotly contested and nothing can come through, then you jump on the side, and it looks to me like black's going to take over on the queen side. Knight takes E6. Yeah, there is. Boy, I'm going to have to start writing better. Looks like there's nothing on C6 to take, so yeah, that's got to be an E. Or is that an A? No, he's not going to take A. So I'm going to say that's E. Knight takes E6. Oh, yeah. F takes E6. Somewhat taking away a defender. Somewhat making the black king a little bit looser. Yeah. That's what it looks like. The rook lift. C3 hitting the knight. Supporting his knight. Although that's not why he's doing this, I don't think. Rook to, ooh, D4, target. Something's wrong. No. Yeah, rook D4. Yeah, rook D4. Boy, we've got just a little ways to go yet, and we're getting into a good part of this game. It's really getting good now because it's down to the end game stuff, and black has the central pawns. Queen C1, target. Rook D3, target. And let's get a passed pawn. Interesting. The power of that passed pawn could be significant. He also, by doing this, acquiring the target, and the target, that's technically not his target, of course. He's trying to keep the knight from falling. So that's not a bad move. And the rook does take the rook, of course. The rook has to take the rook, otherwise you lose the exchange. C takes D3, and now what a beautiful passed pawn. Here we go. Queen just comes up to C3. Not a big deal after all, huh? D5, here come these central pawns. They can be wicked in an endgame. Yeah, if you're gonna, yeah, you got to take that pawn. No question. However, now you've got another issue, and the pawn to D4, target. What a great game so far, yeah? Very interesting. Yeah, you dirty rat. Knight just simply dodges over to G4 at this point. He says, all right, I've had all I can take of this. And the has a great outpost there on C4. Again, that C4 square for the knights. I mean, if black can acquire it and keep it, it is significant in a Ruy Lopez. Bobby Fischer as white tried to make sure his knight was always on that knight C4, or on the C4. So yeah, that's not a bad post. Ooh, Queen G6, what have we got here? Is white going to sneak through the back door here to get an attack? King comes to H8. Oh boy, queen to E8 check. Here we go. Has black been lulled to sleep over here trying to get things going? Here we go. Let's see what happens. Queen takes E6. Take that central pawn. Oh, he's opening up things like crazy right now. Queen goes ahead and takes A2. Target, of course. Queen to E4. Check with a target. Nice. King H8. King comes to H2 so that there's no tactics thrown his way. No forks that get him in trouble. Eliminate the checks altogether. Queen B3. Time to get rid of that pawn. Queen E8 check. King H7. Queen F7. Getting ever closer. King H8. Knight to E5. Ooh. King H7. He came to King H7 and then Knight D7, and here black resigns. Alrighty, so thanks for watching my Backyard Professor chess videos. I hope they're helping you understand a little bit more about the Ruy Lopez. It is a great opening. It is still being used, and it's, what, 430, 440, 50 years old? It's one of the most venerable openings ever, and it pays to study it from both sides. So, anyway, thanks for watching my videos. You guys have a great evening. Be good, do well, have fun. when you get to a busy street, stop and look both ways. I'm just saying. Be safe. We've got a lot of chess to learn together. Come and join us in our club on Lychus. We're having a lot of fun. There's a lot of information being shared. We're winning games, we're losing games, we're playing games, we're kibitzing each other, we're laughing together, we're crying together, and we're learning together. And, you know, it just can't get better than that. I'll see you guys in the next chess video.